じめまして、LinkFrostimus と申します。今日はタカラトミのトランスフォーマーマスターピース合体 MPG-01 トレインボットShoukiを話したいと思います。見た目やスケールや関節の動きや強さについて話します。まずShoukiは誰ですか？
サイバトロン高速指揮官トレインボットShouki。トレインボット部隊のリーダーを務める高速指揮官Shoukiは故郷である日本の美しい自然や富士山をこよなく愛するサイバトロン戦士。デストロンにより地球各国に対し脅迫が行われた際には仲間と共にふるさと日本を守るべく奮戦した。性格は時間にうるさくせっかちかつ生真面目。その一方でどこかアバウトでいい加減なところがあり、Shoukiなのかと問われれば、俺はShoukiだと答えるほどジョークが通じゃないのが欠点。自信に弱くすぐストップしてしまうのも弱点とされている。地球人の少年ダニエルは友達であり、共に行動する機会には彼を運転席に乗せることも多い。Shoukiのビークルモードは東海道新幹線。6両連結の際には戦闘車両を構成。豪雪戦闘員雪風の2両連結ではスペースブリッジを最も早く通過することが可能。仲間の危機や緊急事態に誰よりも早く駆けつけるのがShoukiたちトレインボットなのである。Shouki is the first of Takara's new masterpiece subline, Masterpiece Gattai, a line dedicated to combiners. And interestingly, the first group that they decided with is the Autobot Trainbots from the Japanese G1 continuity. But for this group, not gonna lie, I'm a little skeptical. I mean, it's cool that they're showing love to a not-so-popular subgroup, but Takara seems to be sticking to the goal of model trains that transform, at the cost of the robot modes and the combined mode. But we'll get into that later. For now, we have Shouki, our first taste at Takara's new line. So, how does he hold up? Is he worthy of the masterpiece title?
さあ、批評スタート。
着いた。お待たせしました。Shouki! Vehicle mode! And I have a lot of things to say. I mean, first of all, it is cool. It's also cooler that it's an officially licensed Tokaido 0 series Shinkansen, and it looks pretty spot on. The sculpted in detail is absolutely killer too. From the little panels on the side of the train, the details on top of it, the door detail on the back, and even a bit of detail on the underside. And riding trains in Japan every day, I appreciate the detail on this train so much more. I think I like trains now. Color-wise, in the Headmaster's anime, he's more white, but I honestly think he rocks the realistic beige. So he's got the look, but I have some problems with the train mode. First of all, the panel lines. I know there's no escaping panel lines, but these panel lines kind of breaks the sculpt more than it normally would, for me at least. And unfortunately, there's more to it than that. These panels don't sit flush. It's not perfectly flat, so not everything perfectly tabs in. Run your fingers through him and you'll see what I mean. And this is a problem that a lot of recent masterpieces have been facing. Not everything tabs in perfectly. I would be open to overlook the panel line issue if everything just tabbed in perfectly, but it doesn't. Does it, Takara? I don't have to say this because these guys are over $100 figures, but this shouldn't be an issue. Another thing that shouldn't be an issue, the mismatched colors. I know I'm not crazy. You can clearly see that the beige on the main body doesn't match the front of the train. Why? Again, masterpiece. This should not be an issue. Speaking of masterpiece issues, I'd like to share my opinion on a little something called windows. Vehicles have windows. No shit. In the G1 cartoons, everybody's windows were tinted so you couldn't see the inside. Therefore, every masterpiece should have tinted windows. No exceptions, especially if you have no detailed interior to show off. Unfortunately, this is the case with our buddy Shouki. All these windows just show gross robot mode stuff, and that's not pretty to look at. Takara is clearly aiming for realism on this train mode, but they really should have grayed or blacked out the windows if they weren't gonna go for an anime blue. But honestly, I'm fine with the windows in the front. They should stay clear, and it looks alright, and in fact, it plays into some accessories. So, I think you know what time it is. これ、座席. They're just plain blue seats. You get two, and you can open up Shouki's front and plug both of them in. If you have a minifigure accessory like Daniel from Masterpiece Ultra Magnus, you can actually have him sit inside. But I don't have Daniel or a minifigure to sit down, so here's a picture of how that looks. Again, neat, but this shows how not in scale the minifigures and even the seats are of this train mode. So realism shattered. A little bit. I don't know. There's another accessory you can store in the train. Raiden's chest piece. It folds up and plugs in here and surprisingly closes up flush. But you're gonna have to make a decision on what gets stored though. There's no room for both the seats and the chest. You can store the blaster individually though, under the train. but it doesn't peg in properly. $150. What the fuck? Plugging in the gun also does not allow him to roll on these included rail parts. Make sure to connect them together specifically like this, and boom, you got a train track to display Shouki on. Neat. Kind of finicky to get him to sit perfectly, but once you do, he rolls as smooth as butter. And that's not all this track can do. First you need this. Joint parts. Plug it into Shouki's train gooch, and from here you can take a power base arm, not included, plug it in the tracks, and then plug in Shouki on the arm to get him flying in the air, just like in the anime. The skinny track can't really hold the weight of him and the arm too well though, so be careful. Now let's talk about his size and scale, which was a bit of a discussion amongst fans. So, he's long, but for a train, he's way smaller than he should be. You're just gonna have to take my word for it because all I really have to compare him with is Gattai. But yeah, so the Trainbot's train modes will be in scale with each other, but not with everyone else in the Masterpiece line. Trains are massive in real life, but Shouki is just as thick as MP Bumblebee, a chibi-fied Volkswagen Beetle. There's clearly gonna be a size discrepancy with other MP vehicle modes, so that's something to keep in mind. This was done so that the robot modes would properly scale, which is the big focus, but also so that their trains could scale with each other, but not with other people. And if that's the case, I don't mind. I'm gonna collect all of these guys, so if I do ever display them in their train modes, they'll be displayed separately with each other instead of with, you know, Optimus Prime, Bumblebee. But overall, it's a good train mode. It has problems that shouldn't be present in a Masterpiece figure, but it looks the part and feels solid. Again, good train. But does it get better from here? Mite mio. Shouki! Robot mode! And no one accused me of bootlicking just yet, I just have to get this out of the way first. This robot mode is fantastic. Surprisingly and delightfully anime accurate. Yes, even the train backpack. The kibble may not look pretty, honestly I don't think it looks too bad, but it technically is anime accurate. Sticking with the realistic vehicle mode results in his robot colors looking darker than the anime version, but this guy still looks like Shouki, aka he's a cool dude. Those newly revealed robot features are absolutely fine. The paintwork is mecha utsukushi, and kono kao, kakkoi! I love his head sculpt. You can clearly see the Japanese mecha influence on him. The jutted out chin, the head crest, the eyeliner. The sheer detail on this guy's head alone is a marvel, and he's got amazing profiles, can't relate. But the crest has a paint boo-boo, what the fuck? Let's not forget these shoulder vents too, a nice detail. And stepping back to take a look at him overall, he looks great. His proportions are natural and spot on, super clean. I know these guys are in steep competition with Moon Studio, and I can confidently say that MPG Shouki's train and robot mode looks better. Looks. We'll get into the issues this guy has. But wrapping up with the robot mode, let's take a look at the side and the back. Head on looks alright, but I really don't like this black hinge. I think this entire piece is actually pretty distracting. I wish Takara just found a way to hide it more. The other thing that doesn't look good are his legs. Looking at them from the front, you'd think, yeah, looks complete. But it's a lie. He doesn't have fully enclosed legs, and this does look strange. Like, come on, there's no way that they could not have figured out a solution to this. This is just lazy. And it's asymmetrical due to the left leg containing the train tracks inside, giving it a more complete look than the right leg. Lazy, $150 Takara, but still, cool robot, not gonna lie. And one more thing, with this kibble, Shouki can do this. Manto no Tenkai! What the hell is this? A cloak? Wings? Weapons? There's clearly gun barrels here, but this is just kinda okay. I mean, he can do this, if you want. Whatever. So yeah, MPG Shouki. Great robot mode, looks better and more anime accurate than the competition. But when humanity calls for help, what will Shouki do? Sa, Shouki, battle up! Mina, hasure! Ushiro ni kite! 最初、 Buki. Mahareza, Shouki's tried and trusted blaster. It honestly looks basic overall, but it looks better when you open up his hand, plug it in, and wrap his fingers around the handle. That looks better. Until you notice that the color matches his hand and arm. Man. Unfortunately, no blast effect parts to enhance this, but he still looks cool wielding it. And if you don't want him to wield it, fortunately, you can store it away. Fold down the barrel and plug in the stock behind his right leg. Honestly, neat storage, and it makes the right leg look just a little more complete. Now he's got something for offense, but what about defense? Saigo, Raiden yo chest parts. Flip out this joint behind it and slot it into this tab. Now he's got a shield. It actually looks pretty cool, and even better when you pair it with his Mach laser. And believe it or not, this can be stored too, the exact same way it does in train mode. I'm actually really in love with this weapon storage. It's all seamless, it's perfect, it doesn't obstruct his silhouette at all. But nowhere for the chairs to go, and no interaction with the train tracks. You can't even plug him in on a stand with the adapter in robot mode. He still has a port directly underneath the ally scrotum, but you'll need a strong stand to support him. So his accessories, they're alright, but I guess opinions can change based on how you use them, and Shouki can put these things to work. Shouki's articulation is solid. All the essentials are included, and you can move some parts out of the way to give him a wider range of movement. Though he does feel more like a pre-Star Saber Masterpiece figure with his articulation. And what I mean by that is no ab crunch and a fairly weak ankle tilt. Still though, he's on par with Skids and Reboost, maybe even a little bit better than them. He's got everything you need, so you can pull off some great poses. He looks good in whatever you can get him to hold. That is, if you can hold it. Here's my main problem with the robot mode. It's how he feels and how he handles. So, shake test holds up pretty well. He's solid, but there are some cracks, and when they show, it's ugly. First, his biceps. The mushroom pegs aren't really in too well, so if you swivel them enough, they're gonna just naturally pop out of the socket. This is really annoying. You can push them back in, but come on. Next, when you try to move his arm out, the whole assembly can sometimes just unpeg from his chest. Again, annoying. His backpack also gets in the way, and the slightest nudge to it will make it unpeg. Get back in there, you fucking. The biggest disappointment though are his legs. First, his thigh swivel is fairly loose. Knee ratchets are also not as tight as I want them to be. That sucks. And now, perhaps my biggest annoyance. If we learn anything from the shit show that was MPM Optimus Prime, it's that important vehicle parts should not go on the bottom of the robot feet. And well, not only is this the case for our buddy Shouki, but these parts aren't even flat. So, stability and the potential to scrape the bottom of his feet are worries I do not want on a $150 figure. And one last thing that a lot of people have been criticizing the entirety of the Trainbots is that a decent amount of this guy is made up of transparent plastic. And we all know how brittle transparent plastic is. But thankfully, for now at least, no paint chips, no breakages. I'll admit, this transparent plastic is pretty sturdy, so I'm not worrying about it breaking anytime soon. But still, it does have a certain feel to it, and this feel along with these QC problems, Shouki isn't really that fun to handle. I mean, there are times where it feels good, and when you eventually get him in a cool pose, it's an awesome reward to just look at him, but the process to get to that is a lot more trouble than it should be. So yeah, the feel isn't that great, and the size is also a bit disappointing. He's roughly as tall as a taller than average Voyager, and I don't really have another person other than Getsaway to do a size comparison with, so here's a picture of him and how he looks with other MPs. But, I don't know, it feels like it should have been taller. From this picture though, he does fit in with other MPs. He may look out of place in this train mode, but he fits in perfectly with the rest of the Autobots in robot mode. And that's Shouki's robot mode. Looks great, cartoon accurate, looks better than the Moon Studio version, but he does leave a lot to be desired in the feel department. Again, this is a masterpiece figure. It should look amazing and feel amazing, and all these QC issues don't show that MP style quality to me. But still, he's a good figure, not bad at all. Now before we give him that final rating, there is one more mode we have to talk about. It's gonna be brief since we don't have a lot to talk about, so let's talk about his last mode. Raiden Gattai Mode! Raiden no Kyobu! And look at them titties. What a nice rack. It honestly looks like a decent chest, and we can see how the arms are gonna lock in with this mechanism right here. Looks like we'll have to slide in Suiken and Seizon into these ports to lock them in, and this acts like a limited ratcheted rotation. But we'll see if this will be able to hold up their weight when they arrive in our hands. They probably won't. And, not all the things really lock into place, so I'm a bit concerned as to how this thing will hold up when fully assembled. Now, one feature of the chest mode is that you can actually display it. The joint part slides in here, and you can attach him to a power base arm to display a floating chest, if you want. I don't know, it's kind of weird. I mean, if you want him like this while you wait to assemble Raiden, then go ahead, I guess. But do you really want to wait for him? Look, I'm sure these Trainbots are gonna have good train modes and decent robot modes. But looking at the silhouette of Raiden, I have very low expectations for their combined mode. Now, this silhouette is off. When I saw the prototype of him in person, he looked a lot better. But still, I mean, for our first Masterpiece Combiner, he does not look amazing. I'm sure when you think of Masterpiece, you think of a figure that will blow you away, and so far, Raiden is not doing that for me. I'm sure he'll look better in color, but overall, he's not that tall. He's probably about 2 Shoukis in height, and he looks like he's gonna be a pain to pose and handle. We'll have to see in person though, but for now, expectations low. Moon Studio clearly has the upper hand on the combined mode. And that's unfortunate because anything these third-party companies can do, Takara can do and should do a million times better, but they don't. And that's all I can really say about Shouki's Gattai mode and MPG Shouki as a whole. So, how is he? Overall, despite his cons, I think I can safely say that MPG Shouki is good. But is he a masterpiece? Well, when I think of masterpiece, I think of Takara's absolute best attempt at a visual recreation of a transforming Transformer figure, from media to a physical plastic form. A real-life / cartoon-accurate alt mode that can transform into a great-looking cartoon-accurate robot mode. So right now, judging Shouki's robot and train mode, is this the best Takara could have done with him? In my honest opinion, yes. Masterpiece. Especially compared with Moon Studio's Moonshine, I guess that's all I have to really compare this guy to. I do think that this is the most cartoon-accurate Shouki and the best that Takara could have done. Despite the various QC problems, I still think it's a good figure. The best robot mode and best train mode, no question. That being said though, I think we already experienced the peak of the MPG line with this guy. Going off of looks alone, Shouki seems to be the best one, and it might go downhill from here. So do I recommend him then? Well, if you like trains, sure. If you have no attachment to this guy, let's be honest, who does? The Trainbots have zero personality, but are focusing on the G1 MPs, it might be alright to skip out on this guy. The Trainbots seem to follow that old school MP philosophy of cartoon accurate to a degree with a blend of realism. So they won't look completely off next to the hyper accurate MPs, but they do look different. If you want a taste of the MPG line, I think Shouki is your best bet out of all of them. Otherwise, it's alright to skip out on. I still like him, but honestly, nothing too special. For me though, I'm riding this combiner train to the very end. The first stop was a good experience, but it didn't leave me blown away, like what I expect a masterpiece figure to do. Does it get worse? Will it get better? Well, in due time, we'll see.
さあ、どこ行こうか。